Imagine a world in which you could take your fruit tree and make an exact replica of that fruit tree that will fruit exactly 1 year from the time that you start that plant. You all would know that if you start a zabuka or a mango from seed, you're waiting 10 to 15 years before you get your first fruit. Imagine starting a plant this year and then getting fruit from that next year. That's what we can do with something called air layering, and today I'm going to be talking all about that. We're going to be going into this air layer that I did on this governor plum here. Hello everyone, thank you so very much for joining in. This is Dylan from the Trinidad Gardeners channel, and I'm so excited that you're here for this video. I can't promise it will be the shortest video, but I think it'll be one that's well worth it. We're going to be looking into this plastic bag, this weird looking plastic bag that I have on this plum tree here. I'm underneath a governor plum tree right now, and this tree has just finished producing fruit, and we've done an air layer on it. And we're going to be talking about what is an air layer and also how I did with this air layer on this tree here. Now you see this plum tree here, this is a governor plum. This is a fruit tree that I love and I enjoy having fruit from it. So like, let's imagine that I have a friend that comes over and then they try the governor plum from here and they really like it as well. So they might say, okay, well, they want to get a governor plum tree as well. So they may go get a governor plum plant from somewhere or try to grow it from seed, which will take 10, 20 years to get fruit, but it's possible. And when they eventually get a fruit, it's very possible that the governor plum that they get is going to be of a different strain and variety than the governor plum that I have in this tree here. Now, there is a way that you can get the exact replica of this tree, and that's through a process of propagation. And one of the ways that we propagate to make sure that we have the exact same genetic makeup, the exact same genetic model of this tree here, is through air layering. Now, air layering is something that happens in nature all the time without human intervention at all. Sometimes a plant will just be hanging so low that the branch will touch the ground, and then there's an area of moisture that will just encourage roots to grow from that branch, and then all of a sudden that tree now has a baby plant growing from it using that branch itself. It sounds kind of crazy, it sounds kind of incredible, especially if you're not in agriculture. It's going to sound like something that's very, very weird. We have always learned, and it's general knowledge, a plant grows from a seed. So you want to get a plant from a tree, you take the seed and then you grow the seed, and that's how you get a new tree. And maybe you might have heard as well that you can grow from cuttings, but growing from seed, then growing from cuttings, those are two things that seem that, okay, they're fairly, makes some kind of logic. But growing from a branch that you force roots out of, just firstly forcing roots out of a branch sounds ridiculously mad. And then using that branch to then grow a exact replica of that plant would also be kind of crazy to think about, but it's very, very possible. And it's something that I'm going to be showing you all today. This tree here, I did an air layer on it about maybe 2.5 months ago, and I just forgot about it. Didn't really quite forget, it's just I didn't want to check it too early, so I left it. I didn't really worry about it, and I came back, and well, today I'll show you all what ended up happening with that air layer. The idea is that once you force an air layer on a tree, and I'm using the word force because the tree doesn't necessarily want to do it. It's not that it can't do it, it's just that it doesn't necessarily want to just air layer. The tree just wants to survive and just live, but we have found a way through our own human cultivation. We experiment, and now we are able to then make a proper replica of a tree and get the exact same variety of a tree. So if your friend comes by and they try a fruit tree and they like the fruit, they can get an exact replica without having to buy another one, which might not be the exact same thing, but in a way that's also sustainable, because the tree will just continue growing new branches. So if you take out a branch from a tree like this and you make an air layer from it, you take that branch, you make an air layer, you plant it, then the tree will just grow new branches. So it's completely fine, and even younger branches are even easier to air layer. So it's not like you're going to be necessarily destroying the tree. Another scenario where people would air layer is if a tree is getting really old and it's going to die at some point. You make some air layers of it so that you always have an exact replica of that tree to then use in the future. Now, something very important is that in an air layered plant, a plant that comes from an air layer is going to fruit within the exact next season that it's supposed to fruit. Because when you take a part of a tree that's already mature and growing, it doesn't need to mature anymore. It's already there. It's already at that point of growing. So when you take that area, you take off the branch, you plant it, then you put it in that bucket or something like that, and you let it develop, the tree will think that it's properly mature. However, the point is, don't let the tree that's mature produce fruit within a year. It will try to produce fruit. You'll see flowers. I recommend that you take those flowers off. The idea is that you take 3 years to let your area properly establish itself. First year is going to be the crawling stage. Second year is going to be the walking stage. And the third year is going to be the running and leaping stage. So the first year, your tree is just crawling. It's a mature tree, but it'll take some time. It's establishing itself, and it will still try to produce because it's a mature tree. But it may not be the best idea to let it use its energy to fruit when it should be taking that time to root. That rhymes, huh? I'm a poet, right? So that's the first year. The second year, you can allow it to fruit some, but don't overdo it. Let it still take time to develop itself. And the third year, then you can start really enjoying the fruit from that tree itself. That's just my recommendation. You can let it fruit on the first year, and it could be fine. It's just sort of a recommendation. It's just a general rule of thumb to just make sure of the longevity of your plant, and you're not just overly working the plant, because stress can cause a tree to die. That's just general knowledge, that trees die due to stress. So stress it out the least amount possible, because it is, even though it's a mature plant, it's still developing a root system, because it's obviously something that's a bit different than the traditional tree itself. Sun is setting, and there's a lot more that I do want to say. I also don't want to make this a very long and drawn out video. There will be more videos. This is just the start of a continued series on propagation, but specifically air-layered propagation, because there are other ways of propagating plants, and we do have videos. There's a playlist about propagation. But in this video, I would like to say something, which is that it could be kind of scary to have somebody try to air-layer your tree, because you're taking a knife and they're going to do something that looks like it's hurting the tree. But you don't need to worry. The air-layering process is very, very simple. I'll talk about it briefly right now. In the future, I will do a proper video where you can just have a short version where you can see exactly how to air-layer a tree. That's going to come very soon. But for now, just take away this knowledge, which is that the tree trunk, or a tree branch, which is obviously like a little tiny trunk, and then you have the actual trunk of the tree, they have multiple layers. It's like an onion in a way. You see how an onion has layers? The tree also has layers. Every piece of wood has a bunch of layers. One of the layers on the tree is going to be the bark. That's at the very surface of the branch itself. All the way in the middle is going to be a layer of wood, just pure wood. And one of the layers in between, it's not 3 layers, but just to keep it short, one of the layers in between is called the cambium layer. When you are air layering, you're trying to remove enough of the branch that you remove the bark layer and you remove the cambium layer, but you don't remove the wood layer. If you remove the wood layer, then that's just breaking off a branch. You don't want to break off a branch. The idea is that you're going to remove a section. Let's imagine this is a long branch over here. You're going to take one section, maybe this piece, 2 pieces here. The branch goes out, but just one little section, maybe like a 2 inches, and you're going to make an incision, circle incision. You're going to remove the bark. Then you're going to have a little green layer which is the cambium. You're going to have to scrape that off, and then you take some moist peat moss, you put it in a bag, you wrap it around that area, and then you have pretty much what I have in the back here. Don't worry, the proper illustration video is going to be along shortly. In a month to 2 months to maximum 3 months, you're going to get roots from that branch, and those are the roots that I've been talking about, that you can then cut off that branch and plant it, and you have an entirely new tree. That's a mature tree, just needs some time to develop that root system. And then you put it in a container. When the root fills out that container, you put it in a bigger container and it will fruit. But this is an entirely safe process, because what the cambium layer is, as I have been mentioning this word, the cambium, is it is responsible for healing that tree, healing the branch. So if your air layer is unsuccessful, or if somebody comes and tries to air layer your tree, it's not going to hurt the tree, because one of the reasons why the air layer did not work is going to more than likely be the cambium healed that branch. So that branch is just going to continue living on the tree. it just didn't work to earlier. So you don't have to worry. It's a win-win situation. Either the earlier works, so then your friend gets a plant that's like yours, or you get a plant that's like yours, and you live happily ever after. Or the earlier fails and the branch lives happily ever after while staying on the tree, and you can try again in the future. But you don't really ever lose. And again, the tree will produce more and more branches, so you're fine, except when it's like an older tree, and then it will probably, the production of the branches and the foliage or whatnot will be a bit less. But it's something that you don't need to worry too much about. It's something that I would encourage you all to experiment about, because it's a really good way for us to produce more stuff that we can eat, that fresh fruit and vegetables, things like this is very popular to do on zabuka tree, avocado, because it's a really good way to, if you have a really good zabuka tree or avocado tree, you could have 10 more plants and give it away to people. Breadfruit, shatine, a bunch of trees, a bunch of fruit trees and fruiting trees can be air layered. You can't, this is one of the most famous ones, you can't air layer fig, banana, you can't, right? It works a bit different with the suckers for the banana, but pretty much any other wooden fruit tree or even your flowering, your ornamental plants can be air layered. There's a lot more to see on air layering, but we're just going to stop there for now. And we're going to see what happened with this air layer that I have behind me. I hope I didn't bore you all too much in this video. I'm going to prune off some of these branches. This has been on here for about a good 2-3 months, so let's clear up some of this area. I'm going to go tie it up, I hope really good. I could already see that there was some roots on it, I think. I'm going to try to take the plastic off so you can see what's happening with the peat moss mixed inside there. I think I broke off a bit of my root ball here. Okay, so hopefully you all can see that. So these are roots, these are actual roots coming out of the branch of my tree now, which is amazing. So what that means is I could, if I wanted, cut off this branch and plant this entire thing inside there. But for the educational purposes of this video, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to break out all of this and just show you all the roots that's inside of here. Right, so there's more roots you can see right inside here. There are roots, and if you come across on this side as well, if this thing will cooperate, on this side as well, you can see more roots coming through here, which is really cool. Now, of course, if you are doing this and you want to plant your thing, it's not just for educational purposes like my video is, then you would want to come about 2 inches underneath here. You saw off the branch, and then you take this entire branch as it is. You find a size bucket that can support the height, and you put it down inside that bucket. You just use a regular mix. Maybe you can do some compost, like half compost, half peat moss, nothing that's too water retaining. So compost, yeah, because you want to retain some water, and then your peat moss will just give you a bit of that body and organic matter as well, and you would be good. And this plant should more or less fruit for you within 1 year, because this is not just a new plant, this is an exact replica of this tree. So this plant here would think that it's grown up and that it's ready to go. I know I warned you all that it wouldn't be the shortest one, but I'm sorry that I hope it didn't bore you all too much to that to see this entire long video. There will be more content about air layering and propagation in general in the future, but for now I just hope that you've enjoyed this video, but more importantly I hope that you've learned something from this video, and I really hope it's going to encourage you, especially if you have fruit trees that you like, or somebody that you know has a fruit tree that you like, that you'll try air layering. Try a hand at it. It's entirely free to try, and you're going to get something that can feed yourself, feed your family, feed your friends, family for generations to come. So if you know somebody who would be interested in providing more healthy, sorry, these mosquitoes are killing me. If you know somebody who would be interested in growing more healthy organic food for themselves and their family, and helping their friends out with having more food security and taking care of themselves, then feel free to share this video with them, share the channel with them. Let's help them out. And remember, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and on Facebook to see more content. Come to Trinidad Gardeners channel, come to Trinidad Gardeners Garden. And remember, as always, this has been Dylan from the Trinidad Gardeners channel, reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.